You have been in therapy for 2 years. You have tried 2 different anxiety medications. One did nothing. One helped a little, but not enough. You do the breathing exercises. You journal. You know all the cognitive behavioral tools and you use them, and they help at the edge but never at the center. The anxiety is still there, and underneath the anxiety there is something else that nobody has named. If this is your experience, there is a very specific question nobody may have asked you. Have you ever been evaluated for ADHD? Not because ADHD is more common than anxiety, but because ADHD-generated anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder are 2 different things that feel almost identical from the inside and respond to treatment differently. Treating one when you have the other is like taking the right medication for the wrong disease. Partial relief, persistent baseline, confusion about why you are not getting better faster. Understanding the difference is not academic. It is the difference between years of partial management and actual change. Here's how to tell them apart. Generalized anxiety disorder tends to be diffuse. The worry moves from topic to topic. Today, it is health. Tomorrow, it is finances. Next week, it is a relationship. The object of the anxiety changes, but the underlying anxiety remains constant. ADHD anxiety tends to be situational. It attaches specifically to tasks, demands, and performance situations. The moment you have to start something, the dread arrives. The moment a deadline approaches, the avoidance intensifies. The moment you are in a situation where your brain might fail you publicly, the anxiety is paralyzing. When you remove the task or the demand, ADHD anxiety often subsides. When you remove the stressor from generalized anxiety, the anxiety often finds a new object. There is also a specific ADHD anxiety pattern called demand avoidance. When the ADHD brain experiences a task as a demand, something it must do whether or not it wants to. The resistance can be extreme, not laziness, neurological friction. The more urgently something needs to be done, the more the ADHD brain resists it. And the anxiety generated by that resistance cycle can be severe. This is why ADHD people often function better on self-directed projects than assigned ones. The demand itself, the imposition of external expectation, triggers a nervous system response that makes starting feel impossible. Understanding this pattern is not an excuse for avoidance. It is a map. If you know that demand-imposed anxiety is part of your ADHD, you can engineer around it by finding the intrinsic motivation inside the external requirement, by breaking the demand into smaller self-directed pieces, by using novelty and stimulation to make the brain want to engage. There is also the specific anxiety that comes from years of ADHD-related failure. Every missed deadline, every forgotten commitment, every time the brain let you down in public. Those experiences accumulate. The nervous system learns that situations requiring sustained attention or organization are dangerous. It fires anxiety early as a protective mechanism. Keep yourself small, keep your commitments minimal, avoid the situations where the brain might fail you again. This anxiety looks like generalized anxiety on the surface, but its roots are specific. They are rooted in experience, and that distinction matters enormously for treatment. Therapy that works on cognitive distortions or on challenging the anxious thought works well for anxiety whose content is distorted. But if the anxiety was generated by real ADHD failures, the cognitive content is often accurate. You have missed deadlines, you have forgotten important things. The brain has failed you publicly. The distortion is not in the content, it is in the conclusion that this makes you fundamentally unreliable or broken. That is where the therapeutic work lands. And alongside that work, addressing the ADHD itself removes the ongoing source of the anxiety-generating failures. Less ADHD chaos means less real-world evidence for the anxious narrative, which means the narrative starts to lose its grip. Next is the last piece of this series, and in some ways the most practical. Everything we have covered creates a specific, measurable impact on one thing that affects every single part of your life, every single day. Your relationship with time. And why the ADHD brain experiences time in a way that is fundamentally different from everyone around you, and what you can actually do about it.